So today I'm going to explain and more importantly show you why no one cares about your photography. And today we're not going to go through the stereotypical pretentious photographer rigmarole of, oh, you need to find your own style, or oh, you're copying other people. That's obvious, and I made a video like that years ago on this topic, and it's very cringe to go back and watch. So today we're going to go through all of these examples and break down the strategy and thought process of getting people to actually take an interest in your photography. So let's get into it, and big thank you to PPA, also known as Professional Photographers of America, for sponsoring today's video. We'll talk about them a little bit later on. So I don't want to waste too much time. I just want to get right into this topic. The first reason why people might not be taking an interest in your photography has to do with you establishing familiarity. Now, the easiest way for me to explain this is just to show you. So check out this picture of Atlanta's Jackson Street Bridge. This bridge, if I were to show this to someone who lives in Ontario, Canada, they might say, oh, that's kind of a cool photo. I really like the light trails, but they're not going to have this reaction to the photo and take a real interest in it because they live in Ontario, Canada. They have no idea what they're looking at. There's no familiarity. Whereas if someone in Atlanta sees this photograph, they're immediately going to think of all the different experiences they've had in the city of Atlanta. They're going to think of all the different times they've seen this particular photograph, whether it's from someone making it with their iPhone or other night photos. And immediately this image is going to stand out more to them because there's a familiarity and context established because the photo relates to a specific group of people. Now, this is a problem that I see all the time when I work one-on-one with photographers. They oftentimes have certain photos that they don't understand why they do so well. And the reason why is because usually there's a familiarity amongst the people viewing the image. I had one photographer I worked with who was trying to sell prints, and they were working at local fairs and farmers markets, and they couldn't understand why particular photos seemed to sell more. And the answer is because these photos stood out to the people who were at these particular events. The people at the events understood this small section of this photographer's portfolio because they knew what they were looking at, and they could establish, hey, I know that bridge, but this photo is very interesting of that particular bridge. I'm going to buy that print. So understanding who your audience is and establishing familiarity with the photography you're sharing with that audience is one way for people to understand what they're looking at so you can stand out more. Now, this Jackson Street Bridge example is relevant to someone who wants to sell photography as prints or someone sharing photography on social media and trying to cultivate an audience. But let's jump to this image right here, which is an example of more a social media artistic photograph. If you want to be someone who's establishing themselves as an artist, one way you can showcase your creativity and get more people to take an interest in what you're doing is by sharing a scene that is familiar to everyone. So one example of this is this photo of a gas station with this truck. We've all been to a gas station to fill our car, but in this particular photograph, the scene is made interesting. So everyone looking at it has this immediate familiarity of, oh, I've been to a gas station a million times, but look at how cool this particular gas station photo looks. You see how immediately the familiarity of that scene establishes that this is something they know, but they're seeing it in a completely different artistically expressive way. So another example of this would be a photo like this of your windshield when you're driving. Everyone has driven in the rain before, but when you stop and make a photo at a stoplight and it looks very cool and interesting, someone's brain automatically understands, hey, I've seen this before. I've been at a stoplight, I've seen a rainy windshield, but this looks so cool. It expresses the way I feel in those moments that I could never describe. So the image is more compelling because there's familiarity to the scene. The final example of this is this road where it's all moody and foggy. Once again, in this example, we have a road, which is something everyone has driven on and seen a million times, but when the road is transformed into something out of the ordinary, that familiarity is there and people can distinguish the fact that, hey, this isn't a normal road scene. I rarely drive down a road and it looks like this moody, cool, horror horror movie vibe. So you see the goal here, it's about taking something people understand in your audience, whether that's people at a farmer's market, people coming to your website, people joining your social media audience, or just a random person who happens to find you, and creating images that they can understand. And familiarity is one of the best ways to do that. Now, real quick, speaking of that last photo set being in Tennessee in Smoky Mountain National Park, I will be in Nashville from January 11th to January 13th with today's sponsor, Professional Photographers of America, for Imaging USA. Imaging USA is the oldest and largest photo expo and conference in the entire world. And one of the best ways to learn photography is to learn from others, and at Imaging USA, there's going to be over 80 live expert-led sessions going over a number of different topics, from editing to photo techniques to modeling to even the business of photography. And here's the cool part. If you are a member of PPA, you can get free access to Imaging USA. So PPA is who I use for my gear insurance. With PPA, you can get up to $15,000 of gear insurance at a low monthly price. You can also get gear replacement options with a flat rate deductible. You can also get business resources, data recovery services. There's so much PPA offers. And on top of that, now you can get access to Imaging USA in Nashville, January 11th to the 13th. And on top of all that, PPA is hooking up the channel with a special offer. You can save $25 on a membership by going to the link in the description on this video. So I hope you join. I hope I see you in Nashville. If you become a PPA member, it also helps out the channel so I can make more videos like this. So definitely check out the link. See you at Imaging USA. Protect your camera gear. This is a no-brainer offer from Professional Photographers of America. So whether you're a professional or just a hobbyist, PPA is where you need to be. So check out that link down below for that special discount. Now, this moody road photo brings us to the second concept, and that is the idea of setting the mood in your photography to help individuals understand what they're looking at and create a narrative around your photography. We as humans, we understand mood. We understand lighting and environmental factors, and we understand how certain images can stand out because of how they make us feel. So as a photographer, if you understand this concept of your viewer understanding a particular mood that you're creating, you can build images that start with the mood, the feeling of the photo first, and then the subject can come secondary. So with this road photo, I knew I wanted to create this really moody image. And it just so happened that I had this really cool looking road, but let's say there was a really cool looking tree in front of me instead of this road, I could still capture a very moody looking photo because my idea was mood first. The subject became secondary. So when an individual sees this photo or this photo of this tree or even this photo of these rocks, they can say to themselves, oh, this reminds me of October and Halloween. I love the fall. Or this reminds me of Twilight. I love horror movies. I've always wanted to go to Seattle. They can create their own narrative around this feeling. So let's go through a couple examples to break this down further. In this set of images, I intentionally chose the end of the day because I wanted this more whimsical southern summer scene. I knew that if I made these photos in the middle of the day, that mood would not be as strong as waiting intentionally until the end of the day when I could get this very soft light. Now, this photo set might not be for everyone. Not everyone's going to like it or feel something, but I knew that if I made photos in the middle of the day, no one really was going to care. It was just going to be some flowery bushes. But if I took this mood as my motivation of this nice, calm, southern evening and used that as my motivation and built the photos around it, I had more of a chance of people enjoying this set of photos. Another example of intentionally setting the mood is this futuristic scene right here in Atlanta. I knew on this particular night, oh, it's really cloudy out. I think there's some fog in the air. I want to create a scene that feels like something from Tron, something cyberpunk, something futuristic, because I knew people could understand that. Even though they might not recognize this building, they might not recognize any of these scenes, I knew if I built off of that mood motivation, I could create something that individuals understood. And with this photo set, I achieved that goal of creating this very futuristic, almost dystopian looking set of photos, and all I did to accomplish that was focus on the mood first and then just let the subjects find me where they were. I didn't go out thinking I want to photograph this building, I want to photograph this individual walking. I was just looking for scenes that met the mood that I intentionally set before the shoot. Now, to further this concept a little bit, I want to show you an example of setting the mood in a way that's a little bit more obscure. So in Smoky Mountain National Park, I knew about this street turn for years. I had driven this turn. I had always said, there would be a really great night photo here. But in my head, I thought, how can I make this more interesting? How can I make it say something? So I intentionally thought, I want the mood here to be interstellar, larger than life, something that people see once in a lifetime. So what I did was intentionally wait to capture this scene when the Milky Way was present. I could have gone to this scene at any time of the year and made photos with normal stars, but because the mood and goal that I set in my head was larger than life, interstellar, blown away feelings, summer adventures even, I made the photos when the Milky Way was present and captured images that individuals are not used to seeing, and they can create their own narrative and story around. They can say, wow, this looks like an amazing adventure, or wow, I wish I could experience that, or wow, I've never seen stars like that before. Because I was intentional about the time of year that I made these photos, they can stand out more. So the goal here is just to think to yourself, how can I say something with my photographs regardless of what the subject is? How can I make my viewer feel something? That's the goal of setting the mood. Now, the third concept we have to go over is this concept of curation. Now, curation is essentially you strategically thinking about how you can create a story and a narrative around your photography to help make your photos more interesting because viewers understand what it is they're looking at. Back in the day, let's say 2015, on social media and on the internet, a lot of photo sharing websites, whether it was Instagram or Flickr was even popular at the time, or like 500px, essentially your feed where you posted the photos was your curation. People could see the general vibe and get an understanding of what your photography was all about, and then click on individual photos and see that photo inside of this curated set. Now on social media, that doesn't really work the same way because people don't go to your feed as often. If you've noticed, most photographers don't curate their feeds the way they used to because they've adapted to new curation strategies. Now, I'm going to share two of the best ones with you. The first is using Instagram carousels to give yourself more of a story and help your viewer understand what it is they're looking at. So let's say 2015, you go out on a hike, you could post one hiking photo one day, then a detail photo the next day, then another hiking photo or a landscape the next day. And if someone goes to your feed, they see all three of those photos together and they say, wow, what a cool little hiking story. What a great nature photographer, whatever they think as they click on individual photos. Now you want to do the same thing, but in an individual carousel. So when someone swipes through the images, they get the whole story of what you're about. Now, one of the easiest ways to do this is think in this scene and detail idea. So essentially, you share one photo that's a scene and another photo that's a detail, another photo that's a scene, another photo that's a detail. So people have context to, oh, this is the scene, people are going hiking. Oh, look at this cool detail of this tree or this flower. You see how the two images tie in together. Now, personally, I like to do this with photo sets, so more of a story can be established and the images just have a little bit more grip for the viewer. So in this photo right here, we have this street photography scene, and then we paired it up with a detail. We have this really cool awning photo. We paired it up with a photo of the scene. I did this intentionally because by themselves, the two images aren't as strong as they are together. So intentionally, I'm trying to create more strength around what this photo is saying. These two photos right here are another great example. We have this graffiti scene in Miami. It's kind of a cool street photo, whatever, and then we have this cool photo of all the paint cans, but together it tells more of the story of, oh, this is the vibe of the art scene in Miami. That one might be a little bit of a reach, but you understand how the two images together are stronger than the images separately. Now, another way you can use curation to your advantage is to take 3 photos and stack them together. Now, in this video, I'm not going to break down how to do that. You can learn how to do it in 4-Day Photographer. There's an entire lesson about it. It's linked in the description down below, and it's at moderncreativemoney.com if you want to check it out and improve your photography in 4 days. But with this photo right here, what's interesting is these are 3 images that are not very strong by themselves. I went to New York, I had these 3 photos, and I was like, these are good, but I know if I post these individually on Instagram, no one's going to care. If I share these anywhere individually, no one's going to care about them. So what can I do to take these 3 photos and create more of a narrative around what this day in New York was like? So I can establish a photo set here, taking these 3 images and helping draw more interest into what they are individually. Now there's context that this is a set of photos from New York. There's a little bit of street photography, a little bit of landscape photography. There's a difference in color. It's just something more interesting to look at. Now, is this a photo that someone's going to go call their grandma about? Probably not. But having the 3 photos together is much more interesting than just having 3 separate photos posted at separate times. That's the idea of curation, is simply thinking, how can I take what I have and just help people understand what it is they're looking at? Because at the end of the day, like we already established, your viewer understanding your work is the key to your photography being more interesting. But with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Hope this video was a little bit of redemption for the previous video I made on this topic that I don't think was very helpful. I don't even know how many of y'all saw that years ago, but if you enjoyed it, if this video helped you out, do me a solid, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are not yet, and maybe pass this info along to someone who you think it could help. Remember, you can go to the link in the description down below, save yourself $25 on a PPA membership, and join me at Imaging USA in January of next year. Big shout out to Professional Photographers of America for sponsoring today's video. I'll catch y'all in the next one.